Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we recap Trea Turner's spring training debut and tell you why what he did yesterday is what you can expect all year long from the Phillies' new shortstop.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phillies baseball for years on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, on NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television side. Former collegiate and semi-pro baseball player myself, credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member, and happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. YouTube, the Odyssey app, Apple Music, Spotify, all that good stuff. You can get Locked On Phillies. I know I've mentioned this once or twice, but I don't mention it often. You can get Locked On Phillies ad-free if you go ahead and you have the some of the premium streaming apps. So go ahead and check that all out. Appreciate it. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing. I really appreciate the continued support. Let's jump into today's episode. Today we're going to talk about spring training game number, well, I guess it's technically 3. So on Saturday, the Phillies played their first 2 spring training games. They played a split squad game. One was at home versus the New York Yankees. One was on the road in Lakeland, Florida, not Clearwater, Lakeland, against the Detroit Tigers. They lost that game. Like Nick Castellanos was over there in that other game. Brandon Marsh played pretty well in the home game. We talked about the home game already. But yesterday, we got one game against the Minnesota Twins, the Twins who had also played a split squad game on Saturday. So 2 of the only few teams in Grapefruit League play that had already played 2 games going into Sunday. Kind of irrelevant. Anyway, just a fun little stat for you that they both played 2 games. Now, though, you have the teams all together. The Twins basically trotted out a minor league lineup. The Phillies trotted out this lineup. Just listen to this, because the top 5 here are very similar to what you could see on opening day. Trea Turner led off in his Philadelphia Phillies spring training debut. Kyle Schwarber batted second, Realmuto third, Castellanos fourth, Bryson Stott fifth. Then you get into like Johan Rojas batted sixth, Haley batted seventh, Machine batted eighth, De La Cruz batted ninth, who hit the home run on Saturday. So, yeah, the bottom part of the order obviously still spring training level, but you had to look at what the top of the order could look like. And let me tell you where we're starting today. Trea Turner's debut. I know it's spring training. I know the arms he's facing are not the arms he'll be facing during the Major League regular season. But what you saw yesterday from Trea Turner is exactly what you should expect all season long for the Philadelphia Phillies. It was a vintage display of exactly what Trea Turner brings to this ball club. Now, defensively, he didn't do anything crazy. I'll get that out of the way. Nothing wild defensively for Trea Turner, but it's one game. Not everyone makes like a crazy defensive play or many defensive plays, especially when you don't play the full game. He had 3 at-bats. He went 2 for 3 in the game, which, perfect. 2 for 3 in the game puts him at a .667 average. He's not going to hit that, but in spring training, he damn well might. But his first 2 at-bats, starts, and he's the first batter of the home half of the first inning. Andrew Bellotti, who started, got through the top of the first without much trouble. And then Trea Turner, of course, in his first look in a Phillies uniform at the dish, goes ahead and singles the center field. Little humpback liner that gets down in front of the center fielder, gets the first. Kyle Schwarber batting second, which is where I think he probably will be to start the year. I think it'll probably be him 2, right behind Trea Turner. I go back and forth on whether Kyle Schwarber or Rhys Hoskins will hit second, but Schwarber will either hit 2 or 3. If Hoskins hits 2, Schwarber will hit 3, and Realmuto will hit 4. If Schwarber hits 2, Rhys Hoskins will probably hit 3. Realmuto will probably hit 4, and then you'll have to put a lefty in there at 5, like maybe Derek Hall DHing if he makes the team. Anyway, getting a little sidetracked. But Schwarber came up. He ended up striking out. But on the final pitch of the at-bat, Trea Turner stole second base standing up. The jump that he got was unbelievable. Like, he probably could have walked the last 20 feet to second base and not even had a throw. Just, you saw the instincts on the base pass. You saw what the new pitch clock does and pickoff rules do when it comes to the ability to get good jumps and steal bases. So Trea Turner steals second. JT Realmuto comes up, and immediately JT Realmuto hits a little hard grounder past the shortstop. Shortstop couldn't really shift, or they couldn't shift JT to the left side because of the new rules or anything like that. So shortstop's playing straight up. Ball goes to the glove side towards the second base bag of the shortstop and gets through. Trea Turner, a great jump, especially considering there was only one out. Like, that's the other thing. Guys like that, the way that you're supposed to read balls from second base to third base as a base runner. If you're on second base and a ground ball is hit in front of you, the rule of thumb is that's supposed to be a no-go. It's supposed to be a ball that you'd have to, your secondary takes you to the point that it's behind you. It's closer to second base than you are for you to go to third base, because that means the momentum's taking the shortstop over to first base to try and throw out the runner across the diamond. Anything in front of you, you're in danger of the shortstop fielding that ball, turning and throwing to third and throwing you out as the lead runner, which takes a runner out of scoring position for your team. This ball was in front of Trea Turner, and he just reads it perfectly, knows how hard it's hit, knows where the shortstop's playing, goes through the hole, and just absolutely perfect read by Trea Turner. He scores easily, 1-0 Phillies. How many times are we going to see that this year? Hopefully like 100 times. We'll see if it's that often, but it was just a textbook example of what Trea Turner is going to be for the Philadelphia Phillies. He comes up next at bat. He singles again. He gets an RBI because he had a runner on third, I believe, runner on second. Let me go to the play-by-play. I'm still trying to remember exactly what happened. Single to left, scoring Haley. Runner was on third base for that one. So you went ahead and you got a situation where there was a pass ball in the at-bat. That's all I can remember. Runners were on first and second. But just a nice single. Go ahead and bring in a run and put the Phillies up 2-0. So the first two runs in this game were both credit of Trea Turner. So you saw, speed. You saw good at-bats. You saw 2 hits, 2 for 3. Now he flew out to deep center in his third at-bat, which that happens. But you saw hitting for average. You saw the speed. You saw the knowledge on the base pass. You saw him swipe a bag. You saw him work the count a little bit. He looked comfortable considering the new pitch count stuff, or the new pitch clock stuff. He's just like, this is why I've said before that he's going to be the best player on this team, Bryce Harper included. Bryce is a great player, but Bryce is a 1 for 4, 2 for 4 guy with a bomb and 3 RBIs. Trea Turner is like a 3 for 4, 2 for 4 guy that's going to give you 2 RBIs on singles, steal 2 bags, play better defense than Harper does in right at shortstop when you look at those positions comparatively. He's just the most well-rounded player on this team, including JT Realmuto, who's also a really, really well-rounded player, a very, very good defensive catcher, very, very good offensive catcher. We talked in a previous episode that JT Realmuto has a chance, if he continues on this path, to be considered for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like, he's that good compared to his position. And Trea Turner is just so much more. He's, I hesitate to call anybody perfect, but he's a perfect baseball player. He was built to play shortstop. He was built to be a great Major League Baseball player. And I just, again, get used to what you saw yesterday from Trea Turner, because it's what he's going to be bringing this Philadelphia Phillies team all year. It's a very, very exciting thing to have a guy like that. It's Jimmy Rollins again. You just took a team that was basically the 09 team. Imagine the 09 Philadelphia Phillies and take Jimmy Rollins off that team, right? And they go to the World Series and do all that, and they play the Yankees, and they end up losing, but they go to the World Series, and they get that close without Jimmy. And then you go and you add a shortstop of that caliber onto that team, that team becomes amazing. That's what Trea Turner is to this team. And yesterday he showed it. It was a great debut. He looked awesome. We'll keep an eye on him in the next couple games before he heads off to the World Baseball Classic and everything like that. But Great work by Trea Turner, and showed you why the Phillies invested all that money in him. Coming up next, wow, we have our first whiff of what so many people have been predicting from the guy that I call the bringer of pain. I'll explain the nickname, I'll explain who the player is, and I'll explain what they could have possibly done in the third spring training game to start to prove some people right. We'll discuss coming up next as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, let me tell you about my friends over at Built Bar. Listen, I know it's cold outside. I got freezing rain outside my window right now. It's hard to get outside and get a good workout in. Just you're inside running on treadmills and in the gym and everything like that. You need to do everything you can to help keep yourself in good shape this time of year, because the workouts, they don't come as easy when it's dark all the time and cold all the time. Well, that means your diet matters, and that means Built Bar matters. Built Bar is absolutely awesome. 100% real chocolate. Great flavors like peanut butter, churro, chocolate chip cookie dough, all that good stuff that sounds delicious. It is delicious, but the numbers are great. 130 calories. You have like 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. Those numbers are unbelievable for something that tastes the way Built Bar tastes. Have you tried their puffs? They got marshmallow-infused Built Bar puffs that are really, really good if you want something a little bit more chewy. And, I can't tout Built Bar enough for the flavor, for the health factor, for everything about them. It's so good. You can get them now. Normally, this is the part where I, in the past, said order them online, right? No, now you can get them in Walmart. You can go ahead to the pharmacy section at your local Walmart and pick some up, or you can go to Sam's Club and pick up a 13-bar box if you want to buy them in bulk. And why wouldn't you want to buy them in bulk? They're awesome to have around the house at any time. I crush them. I always have them up in the cabinet you see behind me back there. If you're watching on YouTube, I got Built Bars in there right now that I eat after my workouts almost every day. They're great for you. Go ahead and check out my friends over at Built Bar. Okay, who is the bringer of pain, and what did he do yesterday to prove some people not right, but start looking in the right direction for some people? Well, first of all, the bringer of pain is Nick Castellanos. That's my nickname for him, because if you remember Josh Donaldson, I don't know where Donaldson's at. He might still be in New York. Is he still with the Yankees? I don't know. Josh Donaldson, though, of course, a long-time Blue Jay, been around the league a little bit, veteran. His handle on social media is bringer of rain, I guess, because he hits the ball so high it's supposed to bring rain. It's the point of the nickname or whatever. And cool nickname, whatever. I'm not a huge Josh Donaldson fan. The player's good. Not necessarily the biggest fan of the person. That's a different conversation. Anyway, but I call Nick Castellanos the bringer of pain because, of course, we all know the old Tom Brenneman situation where he said something unfortunate on the broadcast, and then he had to do the apology. There's a deep drive in the left field by Castellanos. So we all know that. And then for a stretch after that, Nick Castellanos, every time he hit a home run, people would quote tweet the home run announcement, or someone saying, "Oh, Castellanos homered," or the MLB home run bot that tells you when any player homers. They would quote tweet that with the latest tragedy or terrible world event or whatever and blame it on Castellanos, which is ridiculous, but it's just one of those funny Twitter things. It's just no one actually believes Castellanos. Well, some people might actually believe Castellanos is causing those things because it happened a lot. It was very, very strange. Anyway, that's why I call him the bringer of pain as his nickname. So, of course, we are talking about Nick Castellanos. And yesterday was our first chance to watch Nick Castellanos this spring on the television. He played in the game against the Detroit Tigers that the Philadelphia Phillies lost on the road in the first game, or I guess the second game. They played at the same time. So first or second game, however you want to call it, of spring training. And he went 0 for 3 with 2 Ks. It wasn't a great performance against Detroit. Now we got a chance to play at home at Baycare down there in Clearwater, and he got a chance to play against Minnesota with the other top of the lineup guys there for him. He had 1 run on 1 home run because he went 1 for 2. I forget if he worked in a walk or not. But anyway, he was 1 for 2 with a home run to right center in a big spot in the game. Not that spring training you care about the big spot in the game, but the Phillies had just given up a grand slam in the previous inning to go down 4 runs. And Nick Castellanos went ahead and came up, and he brought him back within 2. It's a 2-run home run to right center field. If he gets, that's where I know the call we just talked about is there's a deep drive and there's a drive in a deep left center or whatever it is. His power alley is right center because he's naturally a doubles guy. When you see a power hitter like Kyle Schwarber or you see a power hitter like Bryce Harper, their power is normally to the pull side. They've got quick hands. They're up there to mash. They're trying to hit the ball into third deck in right field at Citizens Bank Park. When you see a guy like Nick Castellanos, who's not naturally a power hitter, he's a guy that's a gaps doubles hitter, more of a line drive guy. The year before he came to the Phillies, he just had a really good year when it came to hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But over the course of his career, he hasn't been that guy. The goal for him should be to see the ball deep, try and pepper the right center gap, and if you can get him out, you can get him out. That shows a good approach to me. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, if he hits a ball at the left field, it's a home run. Oh, that was a bad swing. Obviously not. Like, he can pull the ball too. I'm just saying the way you leave the yard matters. And you let the ball get deep, hit it the other way. Not a no-doubter, but he got out easily. So a good swing by Nick Castellanos. And this is already, you're seeing, hey, okay, maybe this is the momentum he needs to build in spring training to get back, to get comfortable, to get to the point of the year where the regular season starts and you have a bounce-back season coming. Now, Nick Castellanos last season, I remember, had a pretty solid start to the year, had some early home runs, and then he really just dropped off kind of around the time where the team went into the slide that led to Joe Girardi's firing and never really got back to what we thought he could be or would be in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform. So I'm not saying take this for anything more than it's a spring training home run, but like the Brandon Marsh swing evaluation that we talked about and everything on yesterday's podcast, just take it for what it's worth. It's a small nugget. It says he's letting the ball get deep. In that at bat, he let the ball get deep. You know what he did earlier in the game too? The first at bat. Oh yeah, he did work a walk. I remember the first at bat because he laid off one of the sliders low and away that normally gets him. So we recognize that pitch, and then this next at bat after that, he puts a ball in the right center. I wouldn't say seats, but it's the lawn out there in Clearwater. So he puts the ball in the right center grass over the fence, though. The good stuff that gets you an automatic couple of runs on the scoreboard. So it's a sign of growth from Nick Castellanos. Now he has to do it again today when the Philadelphia Phillies play, and he has to do it tomorrow and the next day and continue to do it over the course of spring training. And then he's got to take that for spring training to regular season games and do it against major league pitching and higher caliber arms. But it's a good sign to follow up a day where you went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts to a day that you went 1 for 2 with a walk and a 2-run home run. That's fine. You're good with that. If Nick Castellanos could give you 25 home runs this year, I mean, that goes in the category of what I was saying the other day about Brandon Marsh hitting 280. You're absolutely going to be a juggernaut team if Nick Castellanos gets back to even a sliver of what he was when he was the National League starter in right field 2 years ago in the All-Star game. So, great sign from Nick Castellanos. We talked about Trea Turner in the open. He's a big part of it. Haven't seen much from like Kyle Schwarber. JT Realmuto had a nice day as well. He went 2 for 3. With an RBI, so good work by JT Realmuto. We know what JT is, though. He's captain consistency. He's going to be really good all year, both defensively and at the plate. And he had a nice pickoff throw to first base as well that almost got a runner. That probably should have got a runner. If Rhys Hoskins over there, or the first baseman makes more effort to make the tag, because it looked like the first baseman, Haley, was a little lackadaisical on the tag. But, yeah, I mean, the guys are looking good to start. You could see why this team is expected to be a real contender in the National League. Again, you could see why they went to the World Series last year. So that's all good stuff. Coming up as we wrap up, I hate to do this, but we're going to have the first edition of He's Not Making the Team, because we saw our first guy that's definitely not making the Philadelphia Phillies opening day roster. I know there are other guys that we've seen that you could say pretty definitively they won't. But unfortunately, we got to talk about the bad as well. And there was a guy that just he didn't have a great performance yesterday, and he will not be in Philadelphia Phillies pinstripes this year. We'll discuss as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. By the way, just a little bit of other news about the game before we get into this guy who's not going to be making the team. Cody Clemens homered for the Philadelphia Phillies. If you'll remember, Cody Clemens was kind of a throw-in in this trade for Gregory Soto. So you sent Vierling and Nick Maton and a guy whose name still, why can I never remember the catcher that they also sent. Anyway, a minor league catcher. And you got back Cody Clemens and you got back Gregory Soto from Detroit. Well, Clemens homered in the game. Wilson not not Weston Wilson, who homered in the initial game, or the initial home game, I should say. It's so hard when they play 2 games on one day to discern what game I'm talking about. But Weston Wilson had a home run in the opening game. Ethan Wilson had a grand slam yesterday to equal one of Minnesota's grand slams. So that was a nice day for them, part of the reason why the Phillies won. But speaking of grand slams, let's talk about the guy who's not making the roster. And Brian Marconi, I'm sorry to do this to you. I know you're a big league camp. You're having a good time. You're trying to get a chance. 25 years of age, 6'3", 175, right-handed pitcher. The stat line yesterday, he was the one who gave up the grand slam to the Minnesota Twins, and he had to wear one. He had 1/3 of an inning pitched. He gave up 2 hits. 2 hits, 5 runs, all 5 earned. He walked 3. He struck out 1. He gave up 1 home run. The ERA, a cool 1.35 ERA, because I believe he gave up a hit, walked 2 guys, walked in a run, and then gave up a grand slam, was the sequence of that inning. Let me find out exactly what the sequence of the inning was where Brian Marconi gave up that the grand slam. But I'll give you the quick sequence of the inning. It wasn't good. It certainly was not good. Yeah, he gave up a double, gave up a walk, and another walk to load the bases, then gave up the grand slam, then gave up another walk. So he did not walk in a run, but he gave up the grand slam, trying to avoid walking in a run. And Brian Marconi, sorry, bud, you are not going to be a part of the Philadelphia Phillies opening day 26-man roster. And that's we've got one eliminated. So when I do on Wednesday my version 4.0 of the Philadelphia Phillies opening day 26-man roster projection, well, there you have it. You're going to have Brian Marconi not included. Big shocker there. But that was the first performance of the spring where it's like this guy just, you could tell he's not ready for this level. But that's not that Brian Marconi will never pitch at the major league level. It's just, he gave up a grand slam in a really bad inning, no control, not good enough stuff. Don't worry about him making the roster. But the Phillies won anyway. Not that it matters too much in spring training, but they're 2-1, and they're undefeated at home, which means pencil them in for 81 wins at Citizens Bank Park this year. Okay, maybe not. Don't get too far ahead of yourselves, as always, with spring training. But some fun stuff to see. And we saw more starters than we'd seen in the first 2 games. In yesterday's game, Sunday's game, at Baycare Park down there in Clearwater. So a fun day as a Philadelphia Phillies fan, and the first glimpse of Trea Turner is always a good thing. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Lindsey Crosby does great work over there on Locked On MLB Prospects. Go ahead and check out his work on YouTube, Odyssey app, Apple Music, Spotify, all that good stuff where you get your podcasts. Awesome work about talking about the prospects around Major League Baseball. Thank you for checking into today's show. That's it. Tomorrow we'll recap today's game as the Philadelphia Phillies are currently taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I'm going to pop over and watch that on MLB.com. And we'll talk about Aaron Nola's start and everything that went on in the next game of spring training coming up on tomorrow's episode. So I will talk to you then on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.